Health insurance, only 59%, that's 6 out of 10 workers in the U.S. have health insurance now furnished at work. Only 59%. Now, how do you save on your health insurance? Just like anything else, you increase your deductible and or your co-insurance amount. So how many of you pay for your own or a portion of your own health insurance right now? Raise your hand. Now, see, it's about half of the room. That's about with the national statistics. And so it's a war we fight. I pay for mine, right? It's a huge battle with the ever-increasing cost. This stuff goes up like a rocket, doesn't it? Say yes. Yes. So we're constantly fighting for ways to keep our costs down on health insurance. Now, one of the ways to do that is to raise your deductible. And so hardly any of us that pay for our own carry a $250 deductible, do we? Most of us carry $1,000 or more in a deductible on that. So you kick that up. Again, if you've got a $10,000 emergency fund, you can afford to do that. Now, a lot of policies are, the co-insurance amount are set up on like 80-20. So after the deductible, the insurance company pays 80% and we pay 20%. Now, you can change that co-insurance amount so you take on a little more risk, they take on a little less. In insurance, anytime you take on more risk and they take on less risk, then what happens to your premiums? They go down because they're taking less risk, we're taking more risk. So if we went from an 80-20 where they pay 80% to a 70-30 where they're only paying 70% and we're paying 30%, they would be taking on less risk. So that'll get your premiums down just like lowering your deductible. That's a good idea. Now, one thing you always want to do is you want to increase your stop loss but never decrease your maximum pay. Now, let me explain what that means. Stop loss is your maximum out of pocket. If you have a $10,000 stop loss, you'd pay your deductible plus your 20% of the 80-20 till you got up to $10,000. After $10,000, they'd pay 100%. Okay? So it's a good idea. You can pick up a little more. You could, if you got a $15,000 emergency fund, you could take a $15,000 or even a $20,000 stop loss as long as they pay 100% after that. See, I'm not worried about the $10,000 or $15,000 or $20,000 event if I've got an emergency fund. What I'm worried about is the $150,000 or $200,000 event, right? You too? Say right. Okay, so if my stop loss, even if I'm going to pay out of pocket up there to $15,000 or $20,000, I can handle that. I'll work my way through that, and after that they pay 100%. So if you've got a $5,000 stop loss now, you might investigate taking it to a $15,000 if you have a fully funded emergency fund, again dropping your premiums. But do not let them reduce the maximum pay. The maximum pay is the maximum they'll pay out total. So you get in chemo land. You get in a triple, quadruple bypass thing, and they got $1 million cap on what they'll pay. Everything after $1 million, you are on your own. If they lower that to $500,000, you're on your own. And so that is not a good buy to drop down your maximum that they pay. Always keep that up there at least $1 million. It doesn't save you much to drop that one down. But your first dollars down here, your deductibles and your maximum stop loss, your maximum out of pocket thing, those are good buys and can keep your premiums down. The best thing out there, though, is the new HSA. See if an HSA, a health savings account, will make sense for your specific situation. The HSA, the health savings account, is a tax-sheltered savings account for medical expenses with a high deductible insurance policy. Now let's look at the numbers on this. I pulled these for an actual 30-year-old couple in our area. An actual 30-year-old couple were to buy a major medical health plan, they would be paying about $640 a month. For that, they'd get a $500 deductible with an 80-20 copay. So after they meet their deductible, then the insurance company would pay 80%, the young couple would pay 20% after that. And that's a pretty standard health plan, isn't it? Say yes. Yes. $640 is a lot of money a month, isn't it? Say yes. Yes. Big time. And so the deal is then that we said, okay, what about the HSA? The HSA is only $316 a month, not $640 a month, but it's got a $5,650 deductible. Whoa, big deductible. So you're not trotting down to the doctor with that deductible unless you're just like really feeling like you're not going to make it. You don't want to wander in there and not really have a clue. I mean, doc, I'm just kind of feeling bad. No, you're really sick before you go like this, okay? And after $5,650, the insurance company pays 100%. Now, that's a pretty cool feature right there. So you're taking the first $5,650 worth of risk. After that, they are taking the rest of the risk. So what's the deal? Well, gosh, I'm saving $300 and something a month. That's $3,888 a year difference in those two policies, almost $4,000 that I'm saving. I'm taking $5,000 more risk, so I got to go a little more than a year without many events. So if you've got chronic illness in your family where people are having to go to the doctor for a lot of different things, then you do not want the HSA because you're going to be burning into some big bucks. I mean, you'll burn through the extra $3,000 you're saving pretty quick out of pocket if you're running through $6,000 worth of medical bills a year. But the Ramsey family, we're really a healthy bunch. We hardly ever go to the doc. I mean, it's a big, hairy deal if we go to the doc. So it's been a very good risk for us because we've never met the deductible since we've had our HSA. And the cool thing is this. You get to take the deductible amount and put it, if you want to, up to that $5,650 a year into a savings account and create a tax deduction regardless of your income. I can write this off. This is weird. They just hadn't figured it out yet. They'll take it away from me soon. But you can write off, no matter your income, $5,600 a year, and then I can spend that money in the health savings account on health needs of any kind. So if I go in the doc and I've got to pay the doc, I can pay it out of that account, and I never pay taxes on it if it's spent on health insurance, if it's spent on health needs of some kind. And so it's tax-free health care out of my pocket in a savings account. If I don't use it, it grows without paying taxes on it, tax deferred. And so what we've done is whatever mine or doctor bills we had, we just paid for them, and I just use this thing as another way to save and invest money, tax deferred and tax free. It's a tax break then. But I've got another big, hairy emergency fund over here called an HSA that's really built up over the years. You do $5,000 a year for several years, you got a little bit of money thrown in there, don't you? And you got the extra $5,000 because you're paying $4,000 less. And if you just took the money you were spending already, you can almost fund the thing every year with just what you would have spent. If you were going to spend $640, and on the HSA, you keep spending $640. So here's the way to think about this. Again, if your family is fairly healthy, this makes a lot of sense. Because with Plan 1 there, with the PPO, you send the company $640 a month. Thousands and thousands of dollars a year. If you don't go to the doctor and use the insurance, they keep all the money. In Plan 2, you send them about $3,600 a year. You put the same, about another $4,000 into a savings account. If you don't go to the doctor, you keep the $4,000. I like that plan, okay? And this will also give you an incentive to stay healthy and do healthy things. Really, really, really a good idea. You're listening to The Dave Ramsey Show. Thank you for being with us, America. We're glad you're here. Jeremy is with us. He's a freshman in college, 19 years old in Salt Lake City. Hey, Jeremy, what's up in your world?
Why do I need health insurance while I'm in college? I mean, I'm fairly healthy.
Accidents happen. You can be walking to class and step off the curb and twist your ankle. Things happen to folks, and you need health insurance. The number one cause of bankruptcy in America today is financial problems due to health insurance not being there. So the best thing you can do is, if your parents have a policy, jump onto theirs. It won't cost much at all for them to add you, keep you under the family plan. At 19, you definitely qualify for that as a college student. So it shouldn't cost much at all. And even if not, even if you go into the open market as a 19-year-old buying your policy on your own, it's still not a bunch of money, and you're taking one of the biggest financial risks you can possibly take walking around without health insurance. So always have health insurance.
Just because you're healthy now doesn't mean you're always going to be healthy. My sophomore year in college, I got mono and stayed sick for several months. During that time, I was so glad I had health insurance because those doctor visits add up fast. Another time, one of my friends was walking back to the dorms one night and fell off the sidewalk and sprained her ankle. We had to take her to the emergency room. It was a really big deal. So she was thankful she had health insurance. But what if we weren't covered? We would have had to fork over tons of money to pay our bills. Or worse, suffer through it and hope we got better on our own. You see, anything can happen. That's why it's always important to have health insurance.
Long-term care insurance is for nursing home, for assisted living facilities, and if you get a good policy, it's for in-home care. Now, how many of you in here are over 60 years old? Raise your hand. Good, just a few of you. Okay, how many of you have parents that are living that are over 65 years old? Raise your hand. See, the number one problem facing this next generation, statistically, is not how to pay for their kids' college. It's how to take care of their parents. That's what's coming. Financially, this is a huge, huge deal. I do not recommend long-term care insurance until you're 60. I do not recommend long-term care insurance until you're 60. The probability of a nursing home stay prior to 60 is almost zero. It's a rip. Don't buy it. At 60, on your 60th birthday, buy long-term care insurance immediately, because it changes right there. The stats start shifting right there. I've studied this stuff for years. I am a huge proponent of this insurance because it's so expensive. See, here's what happens. Typically, 75% of you ladies will outlive your husbands. And so what happens is you work and you build up a nest egg of $300,000. And then Pop goes in the nursing home because most of you ladies outlive your husbands. And he stays there $30,000 to $50,000 to $70,000 a year, and he stays there 4 or 5 years. And he pretty much eats up the nest egg, passes away. Grandma's there, she's in great shape, but she got no food money. We left her broke because the nest egg killed the goose that lays the golden eggs, cracked and scrambled the nest egg. And the nursing home knocked that out. And I'm not against nursing homes. I think nursing homes are just like anybody else. They ought to be paid if they provide a service. And if you're buying a nursing home service, I don't know why you think you shouldn't have to pay them. You ought to have to pay them. If the ambulance comes and picks you up, you ought to have to pay for the ambulance. If you buy a car, you ought to have to pay for a car. Why is this hard? You know, so I'm not mad at the nursing home people. Some of them do a better job than others, just like any other industry. But the nursing home will crack and scramble your nest egg. And so have long-term care insurance in place to take care of that. It's not that expensive. The problem is that you have to have this, well, with your parents, you have to sit down and talk to them about it. Now that you've seen this lesson, you have to have the talk. And your parents probably aren't going to want to listen to you about money. Because when you're discussing money stuff with your parents, you face the powdered butt syndrome. The powdered butt syndrome is once someone has powdered your butt, they really don't want your opinion on money or sex. And so when you go to sit down and say, Mom and Dad, we're going to talk, they say, right, you got something to tell me. But you know, the problem is if they don't get this long-term care insurance, or they don't allow you to get it for them if you're financially able, then we could be talking about a $300,000 or $400,000 mistake. I had a friend of mine not long ago, 62 years old, call me up. I had a long conversation with him when he was 62. His wife was 65 at the time. And he said, Dave, these guys trying to sell me this long-term care. What do you think about this long-term care? I don't think it's a insurance rip-off. And I said, it's not an insurance ripoff. You need to buy it, and you need to buy it right now. And this guy has, I don't know, he's probably got $700,000, $800,000 cash, and he's got some real estate. It's an old family farm. It's probably worth another $500,000 or so, right? So they've got some assets, but they're not just filthy rich, right? They're doing pretty good, though. He's a millionaire in terms of net worth. And literally, he didn't buy it because it was an insurance ripoff. And he didn't go buy it like I told him to. I don't know why he asked my opinion if he wasn't going to take it. I mean, it wasn't a radio call. I spent 20 minutes talking to him, trying to get him to do it. He still didn't do it. Sad thing was, about a year after I had that discussion with him, his 65-year-old wife, in perfect physical condition, begins the first stages of Alzheimer's. An Alzheimer's patient at that age and that kind of physical condition, it's not unusual at all for her to live 15 years. And a lot of that, she'll need care. And so he made probably a $300,000 or $400,000, maybe a $500,000 mistake by not listening to me. I really wish I'd talked him into it, but now I'm just having to watch this unfold. 69% of you out there will spend some time in need of long-term care after age 65. Let me have 10 people stand up right here, beginning with you, ma'am. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 10 people sitting there. Would you 3 sit down, please? Yes, sir, that would be you too. Thank you. Okay. That's 7 out of 10 of you will need long-term care. Now, I'm not saying this anytime soon, y'all. You're all looking pretty good, okay? So have a seat. Give them a hand, all right? The last 6 months of your life could be more expensive than any decade of your life. You have to be ready with health insurance and long-term care insurance. It is the most expensive time of your life, is the last 6 months of your life. And you can't hide assets. I'm just going to move all the stuff out of Daddy's name so that we can get the government to pay for it. That is called a federal crime. Okay? Because when the government pays for nursing home, that's under the Medicaid plan, that's welfare, which is designed for people who don't have any money. When you transfer assets out of your name to act like you don't have any money to get the government to pay for your stuff, that's fraud. It's criminal fraud, and they will prosecute you on this issue. They are big time tough, and they can look back 36 months on some types of assets and as far as back 60 months, 5 years on you moving stuff around to hide it so you can get mom and dad on the welfare plan instead of mom and dad on the long-term care insurance plan. Don't even look at, I don't want to retire on Social Security, and I don't want Medicaid taking care of me if I need care in a nursing home. Buy the right kind of financial planning tools like long-term care insurance. This is absolutely vital. Disability insurance. Disability insurance is designed to replace income that is lost due to a short-term or a permanent disability. If you're in here right now, you have a 1 in 3 chance of becoming disabled for 6 months or more at some time in your life. That's a pretty strong chance. As a matter of fact, if you're in here and you're 30, you're way more likely to become disabled by 65 than to die, statistically. And yet this is probably the most underinsured area of the major points of insurance in a good financial plan. You've got to get disability insurance. Try buying disability insurance that pays if you cannot perform the job that you were trained or educated to do. That is called occupational or ONOC disability. Now, in the last few years, ONOC disability rates have gone way up, and one way you can limit that, and the best way to buy it, is to get ONOC for 2 years. After that, not ONOC. Now, what that would mean is, I speak for a living, I do radio for a living. If I lost my voice, I would not be able to, now I might be completely able-bodied except for my voice, I would be unable to do my job, right? Now, if I had a 2-year ONOC plan, I couldn't do my own occupation, and for 2 years they would pay me. After that, they'd be going, get a job. Unless I was completely disabled, and if I was completely disabled, then I couldn't do any job, then it would still cover from then on, much less my job. And voice disability would not qualify in that case. So if I was in a bad car wreck in a wheelchair or something like that, that kind of a thing, then it would pay me all the way out. But if I just couldn't do something that my job, that's for 2 years. And that's many times the way this is set up. Beware of short-term policies covering less than 5 years. Here's the situation. Longer than 5 years is called long-term disability. Shorter than 5 years is called short-term disability. Do not buy short-term disability. The short-term disability is covered by your emergency fund and getting out of debt and having a plan. It's the long-term disability that'll kill you. If you got this 15-year thing where you can't earn an income, that's huge for your family. You can make it a couple of years and figure out with your emergency fund how to get through things. If you have a good 3 to 6 months of expenses, we know we can make it 6 months anyway. And so long-term disability is the only thing that I own, and it's the only thing I recommend. But you've got to get it. I'll never forget, I was doing a book signing not long ago, and this young man, 28 years old, came up to me in the book line, and he said, I know I don't look like it, but he said, I have a condition, and he named this thing as long as a car, and he said, I'm completely unable to work. I am completely disabled. And because I was listening to you, because I went through your class, I had long-term disability. He said, I have 3 kids, I'm 28 years old. I used to make $100,000 a year, and now I don't make a dime. And this insurance policy is paying me $65,000 a year. And Dave, you know, the stuff you taught me, because I went and did it, it saved my kids. It saved my family. We didn't lose our home. We haven't lost anything. And he said, you wouldn't believe what we've been through. And he told me the whole story about the medical, and it was bizarre. But it really made me stop and think, if a young guy, 28 years old, if that's the case, man, you got to get this stuff. Now, let me tell you, long-term disability, just out in the open market, just going shopping, can be very expensive. And it is based on not as much your health or your age like some insurance is. It's based more on what you do, the type of work you do. If you're doing something where you're doing something with your hands in a blue-collar setting, it's going to be more expensive than if you're flying a desk. Okay? And so you got to think through this stuff. If you're in an office working environment, in other words, it's going to be less than if you're out here handling power equipment because you're more likely to be disabled. I mean, if you're a high-rise window washer, just forget it. They don't want you. Okay? But it's life insurance there anyway. That disability won't even apply. So that's the kind of thing they look at, is the occupational classification. And out in the open market, you're going to find this to be very, very expensive. But in some cases, it makes sense. The best way to get disability insurance is if they furnish it at your work, obviously, and you don't have to pay for it. That's wonderful. But if they give you the opportunity to buy it in group through work, it's usually the cheapest there is. It's a great buy. Buy it. If they offer it at work, buy it. It's almost always the best deal. If they don't offer it at work in any way, you can't get it, try something through a trade association. If you're a home builder, talk to the Home Builders Association. If you're a realtor, talk to the realtors. And see, sometimes trade groups will come together and offer group disability that way. And again, it'll be cheaper than just going to your insurance agent. But anytime you're shopping insurance, you go to an independent insurance agent, let them shop among many, many, many different plans and different companies to get you the best possible deal. Your coverage with disability should be around 65% of your current income. Around 65% of your current income. The reason is that if you buy this with after-tax dollars, do not buy this with pre-tax dollars. Buy it with after-tax dollars. It's the only thing I'll ever tell you that about. Everything else you buy with pre-tax dollars. But if you buy it with pre-tax dollars, when you become disabled, your disability income's taxable. If you buy it with after-tax dollars, disability income's tax-free. So you want it to be tax-free. Buy it with after-tax dollars. And if that's the case, you can live on 65% of your old gross. If you used to gross $100,000 and you bring home $65,000, that's about what you were getting home with after taxes and Social Security anyway. It's a little less, but I mean, you were getting killed anyway by Washington. So you're operating just about on your take-home pay. You won't find it very often above 70%, and lots of places you'll find it to be 50% of your income. But a good rule of thumb is try to stay, don't panic, but try to stay in that 65% realm. Right now, it's so inexpensive that at this particular moment, I'm able to furnish it for my entire team. Everyone that works on our team, we buy it as a benefit. And it covers at 70% for 2 years of own-occ in that situation. But our higher income earners, it doesn't cover them. It doesn't cover anywhere near 70% of my income. It's limited, I think, to 100 or 150,000, and after that, it shuts down. 70% of that. And so if you got somebody making 300 or something like that, then it's not going to take you all the way up to that. The big thing here is just make sure you got food money and money to keep the lights on for an extended period of time. That's what this is for. Now, the elimination period in disability is the same as your deductible. It's the time between the disabling event. I'm disabled here. 30 days later, payments begin. I had a 30-day elimination period. The longer your elimination period, the more risk you take, the lower your premiums are. And so a 30-day elimination period is like a $250 deductible on your car. A 90-day is about like a $500 deductible on your car. A 180-day elimination would be like carrying a $1,000 deductible on your car. So you're taking 180 days, you're going to go 6 months of being disabled on your own, then it's going to start. Well, if you carry an emergency fund of 6 months, then you would be perfectly okay on that. So again, I'm willing to take some of those first dollar risks to keep my premiums down. I want them to catch the catastrophes. Are you seeing that theme all the way through the health insurance, through the disability insurance, through the auto and the homeowners? They catch the big stuff. I'll take the little stuff with my emergency fund and with my financial clean living, okay? And then you keep your premiums down and you get to use them for what they're for. Insurance rates are a battle you're going to fight the rest of your life.
And the only thing you can do is continually be shopping, continually be looking. I recommend you check with a good independent agent. That's an agent that, well, shops a bunch of different companies to find the best deal for you, whether it's car insurance or renter's insurance or whatever it is. Someone who's shopping a whole bunch of different companies.
Identity theft protection. 15 million people this year have had their identity stolen. It's the fastest growing white-collar crime in North America today. And when you have your identity stolen, you will spend an average of 600 hours trying to get that mess cleaned up. You don't owe any money, and I told you in that lesson how not to pay any money and how to fight it through. But you're going to spend an average of 600 hours cleaning up your mess. So I recommend this type of protection, identity theft protection. Don't buy ID theft protection that only provides credit report monitoring. Crud, you can do that on your own. You're allowed to pull your own credit bureau once a year free anyway. So you don't need to have somebody else pay somebody else for that opportunity. Don't do that stuff. And a lot of that stuff's coming in your credit card statements. A lot of the credit bureau companies are offering it now, that kind of thing. I do recommend you buy it, and I own identity theft protection on me. That includes restoration services that assign a counselor to go clean up the mess. See, the problem is not that you're going to owe money. The problem is you've got a new hobby. You're going to have to deal with the fraud victim division with a bunch of credit card companies, and you're going to have to go through all this mess to clean up stuff that you don't owe through no fault of your own. And so I like the idea of having someone take my case, go do this for me. They go fight with the bank. They go fight with the credit card company and clean up the mess for me. That's the way you want to do identity theft protection.
Victims of identity theft spend an average of 600 hours recovering from this crime. It is devastating financially and emotionally. Identity theft can happen anywhere: phone, internet, mall, doctor's office, even at your home mailbox. So it's more important than ever to protect your personal information. Never carry your Social Security card with you. It belongs in a safe place at home. Never throw out documents with your personal information, including your address. Use a paper shredder, and never give your Social Security number until you're officially offered a job. That's simple. Be especially careful on the internet for scams like phishing, and that's phishing with a PH. This is where you get an email from a supposedly legitimate company asking you to verify your credit card or personal information. This happened to a friend of my daughter's not long ago at college. The local bank had of course, their logo and stuff, right? Everybody recognized the logo. So all the students there at the college ended up getting an email from what looked like that local bank, where a lot of them had an account. And the email said, there's a problem with your account. We need to verify what's going on. Quickly email us back and click this link. And they clicked the link. It took them to a website. It looked like the bank's website. And you fill in your account information. Hundreds of students on this college campus did this. And of course it was a con. It was a phishing con. And they took, the con artist took the account numbers, cleaned out the students' accounts. My daughter said the next morning at the bank there was a line of students around the block trying to get their accounts closed because they've been cleaned out. This is a common phishing process. So it can include verifying your account number. Dear valued customer, if you don't respond within 48 hours, your account will be closed. It happens if you have an eBay account. You'll see some phishing scams with that. Sometimes it looks like it's the IRS. Click the link below to gain access to your account. See, don't follow that stuff. Legitimate companies, internet or otherwise, will not ask you for your account information or your password unless you call them first. They already have your account information. Anytime you enter a debit card number or personal information on a website that you initiate the transaction with, make sure that the HTTP in the address bar changes to HTTPS for security, and that the little padlock appears on your browser. If you're surfing at an internet cafe, you're fair game, so don't log onto your bank account or make purchases while you're there. And those phone calls you get asking you to verify your debit card number because you want a prize, oh, please, get real, guys. If something looks too good to be true, it probably is.